This is the Tyler Morgan Show on Relentless Dairy Media Network.
Welcome to the land of bourbon and bad decisions, where the nights are long and the truth cuts deep. Voices rise against the tide with clear intentions in a place where freedom never sleeps. Echoes of the past in the halls of tomorrow. The light will chase away the whispers of sorrow. Stand tall, never bow, the fight's just beginning. With every word, the fire keeps on spinning. After all, you got a message for the nation. Raising up the flag with no hesitation. Through the storm, the fire burns bright. On the edge of reason, we defend our rights. Whoa.
Welcome back to the land of bourbon and bad decisions. This is the Tyler Morgan live on twitch.tv/Tyler Morgan Show and youtube.com/@the Tyler Morgan Show. The world is afire, and it's because of Steak and Lobster Gate. Yes, Steak and Lobster Gate. I will get into it, but first, let me tell you about coffee. Yes, coffee. That wonderful drink that gets me going every day. It's just absolutely amazing. I love coffee, love it so much. And the coffee I go to is from American Pride Roasters. American Pride Roasters is a small, individually owned company out of Runnels, Iowa, where they roast the beans to order, grind them to order, and send them straight to you. None of this. You order it from us, and we have wholesale beans that are pre-cooked, pre-ground, pre-packaged, and we just slap our label on it and ship it. Or they drop ship from the wholesaler. None of that. Dave buys the beans, he roasts the beans, he grinds the beans, and he ships the beans directly to you. None of this, look at my coffee brand. This is my coffee brand. Forget the fact I do nothing with it, but this is my coffee brand. None of that. So check them out today. They have an amazing lineup of just regular old-fashioned coffee, flavored coffees. That's just my go-to. I'm a huge fan of their Thomas Paine Age of Reason remix. Love the Teddy Roosevelt, the Frederick Douglass, the Calvin Coolidge. If you can't tell, I've drank a lot of their coffee. It's really good. Check them out today. Check out their flavored coffees. If flavored coffee is not your thing, worth checking out. They have some great flavors. The George Washington Carver peanut butter and chocolate, just chef's kiss, absolutely worth trying out. Check them out today. American Pride Roasters, aprcoffee.com. Historically great coffee. Now, getting into, oh my gosh. So, first of all, if you are not familiar with government spending, especially with appropriated government spending, basically, Congress tells a department of the federal government, this is how much money you have to spend for the next year. Well, we don't really do budgets anymore, but here's how much money you have to spend for this period of time. And everyone knows who's been in government long enough, as you're coming up on the end of the fiscal year or the end of whatever that funded piece of time is, whether it's the fiscal year or they funded it for a quarter, they funded it for 6 weeks just to kick the can down the road, whatever. You know, when you get to that last little bit, anything you want to spend money on is going to get approved because you have been acting fiscally responsible the entire time. Because, hey, we only have so much money. We don't want to go to waste. And then you get to like the last 6 weeks before the end of the budget, and suddenly requests for everything begin getting approved. New vehicle purchases for government fleets, You never see new vehicles getting purchased in October, November, December. Maybe if one has an accident and has to be replaced, but that's the only time you'll see it mid-budget where they're where GSA is replacing a vehicle. But you start getting into September or even late August going into September because yep, September 30th is the end of the fiscal year and October 1st is the beginning of the fiscal year. Suddenly in mid-August, GSA is replacing entire fleets because they've been really good stewards of our tax dollars up until that point. But if they don't demonstrate that they can spend the entire budget that they have and they end up with the surplus, Congress will not authorize more money. They'll look at that and go, oh, we authorized you X amount. You only spent W. So you're going to carry over the remainder of X. And then we're going to give you W as your appropriation. It doesn't matter. GSA, Department of Defense, the Army, the Navy, Department of Agriculture. You start seeing a lot of approved grants and loans and being given that where they hadn't been received before, starting to come August into September because that, hey, if we don't spend this money, we won't have it available next year. And I'm not saying that's right. Not saying it at all. But this is how it functions. Well, a watchdog report came out saying that the Department of Defense in September of 2025, at the end of the fiscal year, spent a metric buttload on steaks and lobsters. Now, I know to the average person, they hear steak and lobster. The government spending all this money on steak and lobster. They're seeing like 18-ounce, 1 pound plus some ribeyes, 20-ounce porterhouses. They're seeing filet mignons, inch and a half thick, weigh 12 ounces. Huge cuts of really, really expensive meat. Well, to be fair, a lot of it is ribeyes. But they're not ribeyes that you would spend money on at the store. You see, when the USDA grades things, you have grade A. Which I mean, grade A is it's like, hey, this is really good. And your grade A, you got your prime, your choice, your select. And, really, this is a lot of like grade C industrial use meat. Would be ground up into dog food. This is what gets sent to prisons. That's what the military's buying. They're not buying the best for the best. They're, well, we're going to spend $9.2 million on steaks. How can we really stretch out what we're going to get? And that's what they spent money on. And any soldier who's ever eaten these steaks, either during a field problem because, hey, hot chow in the field is going to be steaks, whether it's steak and eggs, whether it's, hey, this is your last night eating field chow, we're going to do steak and lobster or steak and crab legs, we're going to really let you live it up. Whether it's at the chow hall because, hey, we're deploying next week So we're we're gonna send you out in a fine fashion with steak and lobster, or you're deployed and you're in a crap hole and you get the steak and lobster like once a month because that's how often they're able to get delivered. They're able to get the fresh steak and the pre-cooked flash frozen ocean cockroaches. They're able to get in once a month. I was lucky. I was lucky. And we got on my Afghanistan deployment, we got it like twice a month. We'd have surf and turf, whether it's steak and lobster, steak and crab legs. I never ate the shellfish while deployed. It's a personal rule of mine to avoid dysentery. But that being said, the government spends a lot of money feeding troops. If you're ever on social media and you see the pogues and the infantry going back and forth, one of the pogest statements that you can read or hear is, "Without supply, bullets don't fly." And it's true. Your logistics element, your that whole 92 series of loggies, you have your PLL clerks. They're the ones who order your parts and order uh your fluids for vehicles, whether it's fuel, oil, antifreeze, everything, yep, that they do to keep your trucks moving. The cooks who order in the food, the supply guys who, you know, handle ammo orders, especially while deployed, and just all the stuff that you need on the deployment, batteries and this, that, and the other. I mean, the Army spends a lot of money to keep the troops refit, especially when deployed. But people who aren't used to that, they see these expenditures and go, "Oh my God, did you see how much they spent on that?" And meanwhile, you have troops out in the field. They're complaining about powdered eggs and MREs, and they're spending all this money on steak and lobster. Oh my God! When all actuality, it's bulk orders of steak and lobster to feed the troops. It's not all being passed around the halls of the Pentagon. "Oh, yes, Admiral Nelson, I see you got the 20-ounce porterhouse and the giant rock lobster from Maine. Yeah, yes, how is that?" That's not what's going on. It's not the civilians in the Pentagon just having a feast. And they sit and they complain. You can't fund feeding children, but you can spend that money on this." And these are the same people who get mad when you say, "Hey, you know what? Federal funds aren't going to cover Twinkies and soda pop. How dare you tell people what they can and cannot eat?" It's like, well, it's federal money, so we can put stipulations on it. Like every other time that we give federal money. You want a federal grant? Guess what? We're going to stipulate how you spend that federal grant. Why do you think the drinking age went from 19 or went from 18 to 21? Because of federal highway funding. The federal government told the states, "Hey, if you want this federal highway spending, we will gladly give it to you. But we would like you to raise your state's minimum drinking age from 18 to 21. And the state's saying, ooh, that's a lot of money. We hear the Congress of this state hereby pass a law raising the drinking age from 18 to 21. The governor signs it. And then, cha-ching, they get all this money. Yet, again, the people freaking out that people on food stamps can't use their food stamps to buy Twinkies and soda pop, do decidedly unhealthy things. They see high protein food that's going to feed tens of thousands of soldiers, and they lose their minds. These are the same people who look at me with my 80% VA disability and go, how are you working a job that's like 40 to 50 hours a week and $30 an hour when you collect an 80% disability rating? Shouldn't you only be making like minimum wage and working part-time? It's like, well, about that. You see, yes, I have a disability rating. Does my disability rating, is it the result of conditions and injuries sustained during the Army in connection with my military service that has made my life decidedly more difficult? Yes. But everyone who looks at that, a person who has been given a 100% rating, as they should be on the same level as a person collecting Social Security disability. When really it means there's a lot of stuff messed up with you. And this happened as a result of serving the country. And we made a promise to take care of our veterans. So you will get health care, not just for the things that's wrong. You have new things come up. You can get seen for it. We're going to provide you health care as a form of compensation for what has happened to you physically or mentally while serving our country. And then recognizing that your quality of life may not be the same as if you hadn't served. We recognize that, and we're going to come up with a way to compensate you for those difficulties you have. Me, I can barely walk most days, but it's made up for with a check from the VA. Granted, it does not make my job that I do full time to fund this little project. It doesn't make that any easier. It doesn't. But they right now with my ankle that's so bad that I can barely walk most days. I'm going next week to pick up a custom molded brace to help with that and hopefully stave off surgery on that ankle for another couple years. And even then, there's no guarantee that that's going to be a permanent fix. But again, thank you taxpayers for covering that cost. But like I said, the people who freak out over that and freak out over spending on the the food that the government orders for its troops, it's just one line item that was purchased. And I'm sure that the amount of surf and turf that is served in the United States military at home and abroad. I'm sure that that is like an expenditure that's made every 2 to 3 months. That way, troops at home can, you know, once a month get that steak and lobster dinner on their installation, or the steak and eggs on their install while they're in the field one morning. So that troops overseas, because whether we're at war or not, we have troops serving in the Middle East. We have troops serving in Europe, in Africa, South America, Japan. We have troops all over the world. And, obviously throughout the seas, throughout the Navy fleet. So, again, I have to ask, why is spending money on feeding troops such a bad thing? Now, I get it. Lobster has become sort of this, rich person's food, which is really weird because for a long time, the poorest people on the Atlantic coast, they would sell, the oysters, the clams, the fish, sell it at a premium because the rich people didn't want the lobsters because, who wants to eat a bug? And so the poor people, the fishermen, they'd make a meager living off the fish, and then the lobsters, they'd eat the lobsters themselves. And then somewhere along the line, somebody pulled a De Beers, and they realized, wow, lobster is actually pretty good. And there's a crap ton of them. How can we market this? And so they made it seem like lobster is this main delicacy that, you can only get them at certain time of year, and they're really hard to catch. It really got rich people to go, oh my, these Maine lobsters, this delicacy, it's only available for a few months out of the year. We must have it. And so there was given an illusion of low supply, creating a high demand, and suddenly this ocean cockroach suddenly becomes very, very valuable. Kind of like diamonds. Diamonds are one of the most readily available crystals in the world. Yet through De Beers and one or two other diamond houses, they have so cornered the market that they buy up all the diamonds that they can get, even from individual miners who find diamonds, and they hoard them all, and they create an artificial dearth, going, oh, well, there's only so many diamonds, they're just not available. Well, don't get me wrong. Gem quality diamonds are more rare than industrial grade diamonds. The industrial grade diamonds, like you see in the glass industry for cutting and polishing glass, those are far more common than diamonds that can easily be cut into gemstones and put in jewelry. But there's still way more gem quality diamonds in the world than what De Beers and the other diamond houses would have you believe. So, like I said, you have all this going on with the steak and lobster gate. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some questionable expenditures in that report, like the $98,000 piano for a staffer. That seems a little sketchy to me. But what are the odds that is it if it was malfeasance, I absolutely would love to see somebody actually get in trouble for that one. Whether it was, you know, some longtime DOD civilian who finagled the system to make it happen. You know, someone who's been there for multiple generations, not just the Trump administration, but multiple. Someone who's figured out how to game the system and make things work because, oh my gosh, how how can we spend money so we, you know, get this same and maybe even grow our expenditures for next year. Or maybe, like I said, it was malfeasance. Like I said, anything in these reports that is malfeasance, I don't care who is in the White House. I don't care who is in charge of the Pentagon. Anything that is malfeasance definitely needs to be sought out, investigated, and if the malfeasance is backed up by the evidence, they should be prosecuted. I mean, that kind of stuff is just completely unnecessary and should always be looked at. And it's heartbreaking to see Americans coming after feeding the troops. And for all the people who have been saying, well, this is ridiculous. We shouldn't spend this money on the troops, blah, 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 blah. So, okay, congratulations. You now get MREs. You get a hot breakfast, MREs twice a day for the next year. See how you enjoy it. But nope. You've made the bed. Go lay in it. Tell me how much you enjoy one hot meal a day and 2 MRE meals a day. See if it's everything that you think it is. And hey, if you enjoy that for the next year, by all means, we'll look at doing it for the whole military. Whether they're in garrison, in the field, deployed, or not. But until you're living with eating the chow hall, because a lot of the army are young single soldiers, and so they eat at the chow hall. That's what's furnished to them. That's what's available to them. And it's essentially free of charge for them. Whereas when I was active duty, I was married. So I got my basic allowance for subsistence, and that went into groceries every month, not only to feed me, but to feed my kids. And one time of going to the chow hall and having them run my social through the pay system, that would negate my entire BAS for the month. So if I wanted to eat at the chow hall, it either had to be a special occasion where, everyone can eat there. It's not going to be an issue. Like there was a couple times that we had like Jane Wayne Day when I was at Fort Knox because we were the Duke Brigade, named after John Wayne. So they do spouse events for the wives in the brigade, and it was Jane Wayne Day. Or at Fort Hood, we did a spouse spur ride, which, yes, my wife earned her silver spurs, and I never did. I had to get gold spurs because when there was an opportunity for a spur ride, I was at Warrior Leader course. And I was very upset they couldn't participate in the spur ride. But that's neither here nor there. But on those days, the spouse was provided a meal through the chow hall, and the soldier was able to attend and eat with their spouse, and they didn't have to pay for it. Any other time I would have had to. So I avoided eating at the chow hall like the plague. I was going to have to spend $7-8 on a meal. By golly, I was going to have to, Burger King, Jimmy John's, or just drive home and eat lunch there. But I digress. But also talking on military stuff, there was an attempted mass and unfortunately the Lieutenant Commander Shaw, or Lieutenant Colonel Shaw, getting my services mixed up there. He was shot and killed, but not before, or no, but shortly after the shooting, he was tackled. The shooter was, by the cadets of that ROTC program. And one of the cadets ventilated him with a knife 22 times and killed him dead. And, that young man or woman, I'm assuming man, I hope after he graduates from ROTC, when he chooses to accept his commission, I hope he brains his infantry. If he goes to infantry bollock, basic officer leader course, and the instructors are going to be like, "Wait, you graduated from Old Dominion? Were you the guy? Were you the pokey guy who stuck the shooter 22 times and made the green grass grow? That was you? The man's going to be a god when he goes to infantry bollock. I shows up a cavalry officer leaders course, and they will be disappointed that he was doing something dismounted and in the cavalry branch. But it's scary though, with all the Iranian stuff going on. That, like I said, that attack on the ROTC at Old Dominion. This is a article from Just the News. As naturalized but radicalized, recent terror attacks exposed glaring problems with citizen vetting. Many increasingly argue that the U.S. immigration system is too lenient. Four incidents in less than 2 weeks are being investigated or classified as terrorist attacks linked to Islamist extremism. Most of the alleged perpetrators are naturalized U.S. citizens. Throughout history, we have expected people who immigrated here to become assimilated into the American culture. And I think that over the last 30 years or so, there's been this idea that we no longer need to do that. And this is an example of the consequences of those kinds of bad policies. Representative Harriet Hagman, Republican Wyoming, told Just the News. We need to be more nimbly, or we need to be more nimble when things are changing on the world stage in the geopolitical realm. We need to be able to say, now, wait a minute. Maybe for right now, in light of the fact we've got a war in the Middle East where we're attempting to take out the state sponsor of terrorism and free the world from the stranglehold that they've had for 47 years, should we maybe reconsider what we're doing in terms of bringing people into this country? um, Pardon me. On March 1st in Austin, Texas, Ndiaga Diagne, a 53-year-old Senegalese immigrant and naturalized citizen, opened fire at Buford's backyard beer garden while wearing a Property of Allah hoodie, killing two and injuring over a dozen. The FBI is probing it as potential terrorism tied to the pro-Iran settlements, though no explicit anti-Jewish intent was reported. CBS News reported that he wore an Iran flag t-shirt under the hoodie during the attack and had photos of the Iranian leaders at home. On March 7th in New York City, teenagers Emir Balat and Ibrahim Kayumi, reportedly inspired by ISIS, hurled homemade explosive devices at an anti-Islam protest near Gracie Mansion, failing to cause injuries, but leading to terrorism charges. Their motive appeared rooted in jihadist ideology against perceived Islamophobes. Balat is a natural-born citizen, but Kayami is now a U.S. citizen, was born to Afghan nationals who were naturalized in 2004 and 2009. On Thursday, Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia, Mohammed Bayor Jallah, a former Army National Guardsman previously convicted for ISIS support and released from prison in 2024, shouted Allahu Akbar before shooting and killing one person while wounding two others in an ROTC classroom, an act the FBI deemed terrorism driven by radical Islamist beliefs, though not specifically targeting Jews. What? I don't know why everything has to be targeting the Jews. USA Today reported that Jallo is naturalized U.S. citizen originally from Sierra Leone. Finally, later Thursday in West Bloomfield, Michigan, a 41-year-old gunman born in Lebanon, identified in some reports as Ayman Ghazaleh, rammed a vehicle into Temple Israel Synagogue, home to a preschool, and opened fire, injuring a security guard before being killed in the shootout. Federal officials labeled it as targeted act of violence against the Jewish community, fueled by surging anti-Semitism amid the Iran conflict, with Jewish leaders citing it as part of a broader wave of threats to synagogues. Though born in Lebanon, Ghazaleh is a U.S. citizen. I mean, is it really so hard to think that maybe we should take another look at some of these people we've naturalized? And this was brought up in a comment. I forget who said it. That maybe we should look at naturalized citizens who refuse to assimilate and potentially look at stripping them of their citizenship and sending them back to where they came from. And that got some lefty nut worked up and into a tizzy. And yeah, what about the 14th Amendment? The rights of all citizens should, both natural born and naturalized. Well, okay. I think it was a comment about citizens have a different due process, or immigrant different due process. And that's what he was complaining about. They need the same due process for all citizens, regardless if they're born here or naturalized. Ah. And then I commented on it, like, well, here's the thing. You don't have a constitutional right to become an American citizen. That in and of itself is a privilege. It is. It is 100% a privilege to become a citizen of whatever nation you are moving to. If I picked up stakes and I went to Great Britain and I wanted to naturalize as a British subject, there are hoops that I would have to jump through and things that I would have to conform to in order to become naturalized as a British citizen. And at any time, if I did something to jeopardize that, like even if it was something as simple as a speeding ticket, they do not have to grant me citizenship. They could give me permanent resident status. And, well, you'll never become a full citizen, but you can stay here for the rest of your life if that's what you would like. Cool. Or I could just go there and get my permanent resident status for England and decide that I never want to assimilate and I never want to join as a citizen. And I'm sure they would be fine with that. But like I said, in the last 2 weeks, when there's been 4 attacks by either natural born but radicalized Islamists or legally immigrated naturalized citizens who are Islamists, I think it should be safe to say that we might want to take a closer look at people who are immigrating from countries where they hate us. And I don't think it's a bad thing to do that. I know there's others who be like, oh, that's just like the immigration version of stop and frisk. Well, with stop and frisk, it actually was kind of helpful because they would see known drug dealers on the street and they're like, hey, goodness, look what we found. We found a gun. We found a knife. We found paraphernalia. And it would get these people off the streets. Oh, but the prison overcrowded. We can't do that. Well, maybe we should just build more prisons. Just a thought. But, pardon me. This whole thing is ridiculous. We give passes to people based off of where they came from. Oh my God, their parents came from Afghanistan at the start of the war. And yeah, I get it. I get it. It was a very dangerous place to be a citizen in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, especially post fall of the Soviet Union, during the Civil War, and post Taliban takeover. It was always a crappy place to live in Afghanistan for the dude whose parents immigrated from Afghanistan, probably as refugees who later became citizens. Or for the other guy who came over during the fall, during the fall of Afghanistan, when the Taliban took back over, didn't really say when he came over, but at the same time, I get if someone's coming from a crappy place and they have a legitimate refugee claim, you want to protect them, give them an extension of whatever safety that we can. Yeah, I'm not completely heartless. If you're a legitimate refugee with legitimate asylum claims, by all means, come here. But leave all that crap from your homeland at the door. If you come here and you allow your kids to become radicalized, either through you know, you take them to a mosque where you know it's probably questionable what they're teaching here, or you're hearing the stuff that they're repeating that they hear online, and you've seen it before, you lived it before, and you're not doing anything to try to intervene. I think you're as culpable as your kid who radicalized and then committed these crimes. And I know prosecutors can make those things stick because you they there was a school shooter here just last year, the year before. They prosecuted the parents because they bought the gun that was used. And I'm doing a lot of thinking out loud with this, but in the light of all the Iranian stuff, everything that's going on over there, the rise of anti Semitism on the left and the right. Oh my gosh, I can't have a conversation on Twitter with people who are ideologically aligned with me because the second I say something they don't agree with, they're calling me a Jew. They're accusing me of working on behalf of the Jews. It's like, hold on, tinfoil hat boy. Stop. Is it possible that the things that I say and I believe line up with Israeli politics and is and on faith? Yeah, but it's like a Venn diagram. We have these things that overlap, and the things that overlap, just because these things overlap, does not mean they're wholly this that everything is the same. And I don't know, racism is such a waste of an emotion. I forget which comedian was talking about it, but to invest time into hating an entire race of people for whatever reason. I don't care why you hate the Mexicans. I don't care why you hate white people or Arabs. None of that matters to me because they're just It doesn't even necessarily mean to people. It just means that you've taken stereotypes and maybe one or two horrible experiences you've had with that race of people, and you're just eh, like like black people who hate white people because their uncle 50 years ago was a victim of discrimination. Well, okay, what have you experienced? Was it all white people treating you that way? Or was it just one asshole? Because if you're equating me to that one asshole and I've never met you, that's not a me problem. That's a you problem. And maybe you should just stop and go, the only reason I do this is because it's easier than trying to understand and get to know people who have this different background, who are from a different race, who does have a different set of beliefs. Bigotry is always easy because there's no work involved in bigotry. It's like the low fruit of disliking people because it's like, well, I'm going to hate this race of people, and pull that one off the tree of hate and discontent, just right there at face level. You don't even have to work for it. It's really easy. What's hard is saying, you know, black people aren't about black people, about Jews, about Muslims, about Asians. A lot of them are just are bunk. But this individual person over here who did X, Y, and Z to me, I have all the reason in the world to go, I hate that guy. And I would tell anyone in the world, it's okay to not like individual people. At least individual people give you a reason. So you actually have to take time to evaluate why you don't like that person, as opposed to just a broad brushstroke of everyone who has the same melanin content of their skin. But yeah, hopefully the Iran stuff continues on. We finally get somewhere, and that whole 60-day thing comes and goes, and Donald Trump goes, "Hey, we blew up all the mullahs. We blew up all the ayatollahs. Every time they put a new one in, we blew them up." And we will dismantle the IRGC and take control from the mullahs and turn strong republic again, or live under their prior monarchy. And the crown prince returns and assumes power. Either way, whatever gets us out of Iran, that's what I want. Congress attempted to hamstring Donald Trump using the powers that he was given by Congress in 1973 with the War Powers Act. Now, he notified he notified the leadership that he was supposed to notify. And he set a timetable. Now, hopefully he sticks to that timetable. And no later than 60 days, we're starting to move troops home. And this is the shortest war of the last 2 decades. Would love to see that. Absolutely would. But until then, pray for our troops, for those that we've lost, for those who are injured. Keep them, their families, deep in your prayers. And just pray that this whole situation resolves quickly and efficiently with minimal loss of life on the side of us and the civilians in Iran. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this week. Again, be sure to check our other partners, check their stuff out in the links there in the show notes. Again, same thing I ask every week. Number one, please subscribe or follow, whether it's a podcast, whether it's YouTube. If it's YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, get notifications. Once you've done that, especially on the podcast platforms, please rate the show. I'll accept 5 stars, 4 stars, okay. And 3 and below, DM me on Twitter. My DMs are open at Fake Tyler Morgan, and offer some constructive criticism as to why you think my show could be better. Better ideas for topics, editing. Maybe you don't like the jankiness that is the corner of an old spare bedroom in our house that I have turned into a little mini podcast area. Whatever commentary you need to make, please DM me. If you're cool, just like, hey, I don't like this about your show because XYZ. Hey, I won't have a problem with it. You're entitled to your opinion. Now, if you come at me, making fun of me, just being overall goober about it, at least be good. Be funny about it. If you're not, I'll probably make fun of you like I have the guy to Gossamer John for the last 5-6 years now. Like I said, I will make fun of you and I will enjoy it. Once subscribed and rated, please write a review. Say something nice about the show. Make people more interested in it. That's what I need. I need more people to pay attention and listen, watch on YouTube, whatever. So be sure to share it. As the fourth thing, send this episode or the podcast you think will absolutely despise it. Either or, I am good. But you need me to be your tool of hate and discontent, I will gladly do it, because you're probably too passive aggressive to pull it off on your own anyways. So I'm glad to help. Again, thank you so much for listening. And as always, get ready to hit all the right buttons. And as always, stay relentless.
The Tyler Morgan Show is a Relentless Daring media production. The Tyler Morgan Show is supported by its listeners. Donate there, or relentlessdaring.com, and hit the donate button at the top of the page to set up your donation. All music used in the Tyler Morgan Show is used with permission from purpleplanet.com, link in the show notes. 2 Timothy 1:7.